You're listening in on an animated discussion about Batman the Animated Series with two experts in their fields. I'm Joshua Unruh, superhero scholar.
And I'm Caleb Masters, your friendly neighborhood film critic extraordinaire from the Cinematropolis.com. And today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 11, Baby Doll. Joshua, this is children's television?
Is it though?
I that's the question. I'm like, is this children's television? And was Paul Dini, was this like a 450 turn it? Like, was he like writing this at the end of a Friday? I swear he must have, because oh boy.
That is a 100% reasonable question. So let me address that, as we so often do, with the title card, because yes. I think the title card really does set the tone for this episode, both positive and negative, mostly yes. Negative. So there's a little spoiler, listeners. We didn't love it, but it's a super weird episode that you almost can't not talk about because it's so weird, but it doesn't wind up being great. And I think you start with that in the title card, because we've discussed before on episodes with the ventriloquist that dolls are super creepy.
Yes.
Moodily lit dolls are even more creepy.
Extra creepy.
Yes. Whimsical music on top of that image.
Very
extra
eerie.
Super duper creepy, right?
Yes.
But none of this actually has anything to do with what happens in the episode.
No, not at all. Okay. So whenever the episode starts out and you see the title card, I'm like, okay, this is strange. I remember Baby Doll from back in the day. And I'm like, this is a really ominous image, but yeah, with the music playing, you're like, okay, what's this deal? And Joshua, as you always put it, I mean, I don't want to say this is a garbage title card because it was so unnerving, and I guess thematically, or at least tonally, there we go.
Yes.
Tonally sets the tone. It tonally, I think it aligns with the episode. It's like weird, but I'd say this is like a C at best.
Here's what I'm going to say, because I agree with you. The tone on this card is amazing, but it does set a tone for what the episode should have been like.
Yes.
But then the episode is nothing like it. And so it's like, if we were just judging it in a vacuum, this might be like a solid B+,
Yeah. Yep.
Title card. But when you put it into the context of the overall show, yeah, I mean, C-, D+, it's just so at odds with the episode. Well, anyway. And then to me, the most shocking part of the title card is that it fades to, as you pointed out, written by Paul Dini.
Yes. Who
should damn well know better.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, this is Paul Dini. He has given us the best episodes of Batman the Animated Series, Heart of Ice, The Laughing Fish, all sorts of great stuff. Like, so when you see Paul Dini and his name attached, you're assuming, oh, this is going to be a good one. Like, even his worst episodes are generally like, oh, it's still like you described as workmanlike. So
right.
Like, yeah, very, very rarely do I feel disappointed by a Paul Dini episode, but this is one of those rare exceptions, I think.
It really is disappointing, and it's particularly disappointing because if you kind of take a step back and talk about the bits and pieces of it, you're like, there's some real potential here. Like, we weren't ever going to get 100 Mary Doll episodes or stories like we would get 100 Jokers or 100 Riddlers or whatever, but you could see 2 or 3, but after this episode, it's like, no, this is terrible. Don't do this ever again. This is not good.
Well, unfortunately, they didn't learn their lessons because they do bring Baby Doll back in future episodes.
Unbelievable.
However, unlike many of the iconic characters created from Batman the Animated Series, Baby Doll, from what I can tell, really doesn't make too many or any appearances in the comics or other media.
No. She really does have a pretty solid one-off gimmick. Okay, let's climb into that a little bit. Let me talk about Mary Doll a little bit, because she really does feel like an only in Gotham kind of villain, right? She makes sense for Gotham City. She also has the potential of being interesting among Batman's rogues gallery because she is clearly not well, but she is also just as clearly very rational.
Right.
In the context of her pretending to be Baby Doll, she's not okay, but she brought goons with guns and a really super competent bodyguard and staged multiple kidnappings. I mean, she is on top of the game of this so that she can pretend to be a 2-year-old. That's interesting because either, usually you have somebody who is just like around the bend, like ventriloquist right. or our favorite Mad Hatter, or you have somebody who is just like balancing that thing, but clearly goes towards madness like the Joker. She is just like 50-50, right?
Yeah, no, she really, well, because she seems, like you said, she seems, so the type of damage that has been done to her is just based on her condition and the fact that she became a celebrity because of the condition. And that it's not that it's not psychologically traumatizing, but it's not in the same way as like as the ventriloquist doll who clearly had, multiple personalities. That's pretty intense. This is someone who is longing for the past, longing for her celebrity. But it's kind of skewed because I'm sure she has all sorts of, issues related to her condition also. You know what I mean? So it's not as deeply disturbing, but at least on a deeply psychological level. But at the same time, it is, especially when you're looking at like the nature of celebrity and celebrity culture and what happens to childhood actors in their adult years. Like, and I know she's not a child, but it's still kind of a similar thing. It's like, well, this is really sad and it is disturbing, but not in the same way.
It's really sad, but also the revenge that she's taking on these people is actually revenge on her choices.
Right.
She made this. And I don't, we can backfill all this stuff where it's like, I don't blame her as an adult actress for trying to do something else, but these were her choices. She chose to leave the show. And then when it didn't work out, she chose to bring back. And now she's taking revenge on people whose lives were probably ruined or set back by her choices. It's like they should be kidnapping her.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it is super strange because she doesn't ever really acknowledge or take any sort of ownership of those decisions. You're right, though. These are the people, effectively, she killed their careers on that show. She took, their job, they lost their jobs because of her. And now she's kind of giving her a double whammy by holding them hostage.
Right. It's you can do this thing where it's like, those kind of sitcoms have a shelf life anyway, and we weren't going to get to work on it forever. But, you ended the gravy train before it needed to end, and then you're the one who's upset about it. Mary, what? So it does feel like she has sort of the DNA of a really good Batman villain, but the whole thing is just half-baked.
Yeah, half-baked is a great way to put it.
And Paul Dini does not half-bake things. I don't know how this happened.
It feels extreme. It feels like he had an idea and didn't have a lot of time to put it together, or I don't know. We're pretty deep into the Batman the Animated Series. We're based on the order now, we're technically on season 2, but this is like what, 70 or 80 episodes, or this is like 40 or 50 episodes in. This is, you're getting to the bottom of the well. We've already talked about this. We've already gone to like more of the deep cut villains already, and this is another original villain, but an original villain that was conceived so late in the game. It's one of those, you wonder how much he was putting his heart into it at the time. I don't know, because it's a good idea that I don't think he fully half-baked is a great way. He didn't really think it through or develop it enough for it to be meaningful.
And you might be onto something about the life cycle of the show in a way, because just a little bit of preview, the next episode is going to center a villain we've seen before, but Alfred's backstory. And then the one after that is going to be a Ra's al Ghul flashback that barely has Batman in it. And this is BTAS. Those aren't the weirdest choices ever. But at the same time, they're atypical in some ways.
Well, it feels like to me, the appearances, they feel like maybe, okay, we've told all the Batman stories we want to tell. Let's take a break for a few episodes. Honestly, it reminds me a lot. I don't know if you recall, Joshua, the end of the X-Men, the animated series, did a really similar thing where it's like they started to focus more on like the, I don't know, you'd say C-lister characters generally, or like really, really specific small time subplots that you never get in a normal episode. I remember there was an entire episode, for example, where they go into the origins of Mr. Sinister. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like goes back all the way back to London, and it's a weird choice. Now I'm drawing the comparison here, and we'll talk about it more on next episode. But you're like, wow, they seem like they're less interested in the heroes at this point because they feel like they've, I don't know, maybe maybe done what they've wanted set out to do, and they're just like, okay, how can we find some interesting stories in these really weird kind of small character details or character mysteries?
Yeah, like these oddball cul-de-sacs, right? Which is saying something for BTAS.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do have some things that I really like in this episode. So, and then it ends with some things that I think are really egregious and awful. So did you have some things that you liked? Do you have some positive things to chat about? You may not, and it's no shade, but there's a couple things I like.
I do. I like the I'm just a big, I do love stories that are examining the idea of celebrity culture. And I think childhood stars especially, and I know it's kind of weird because she was like 20 when she was doing the show,
right? She's not really a child star. Yeah, no. But we're kind of expected to read the story like she is.
Yes.
Or was like she was. Yeah,
right. That's why it's really strange, but I think the idea of what happens when you get lifted into the spotlight as like a superstar and what happens after. There's a lot of other great stories that I'll talk about in my alternate media recommendations that I think do this really well. And I think the idea of doing a Gotham version of that is interesting, as you put it. And I do find the characterization really unnerving and sad.
Oh, yeah. One of the things I really like is how uncomfortable it is to watch Mary switch from Mary to baby and back, sometimes in mid-sentence.
Well, and she would just go into like, she would be talking normal and then she'd go into her baby voice and you're like, ooh, it reminds me, oh man, it's so eerie. I don't know if this is a thing when you were in high school, Joshua, but there was a thing when I was in high school where girls, a lot of times, I'm not trying to genderize, that's just my experience, that a lot of times some of the girls I'd hang around with would switch to baby voice, and like contextualizing that in this scenario. So that's my association. Okay?
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to say, oh, this is a gender specific thing. It was just I think probably a trend at the time. But like, so my brain, whenever I hear, a female character switching back and forth between that, that's where my brain goes. And I'm like, but this is like in a totally different context that makes me like feel extra icky about it. So
right. Yeah.
I think that's those are some of the really big positives for me.
No, I agree with you, like that switch. And it goes back to that whole, like, how rational is she? And I can't help but ask the question. And it almost makes me think that she might be like 100% rational. Like, this may not be a person who is going to Arkham. She may just be choosing to do her crime in this way as opposed to have any kind of actual madness attached to it.
I agree. There is a fine line. That is a legit question. And I do think she's more rational. I tend to side with you there. I think she is fully aware of what she's doing. She's just kind of angry. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know if... I don't think she's snapped. I think she's just really angry and very nostalgic and wants to go back to the good old days so desperately that she kidnaps her co-stars whose job she basically she had ended their careers. So
one of the things I like, aside from how creepy Mary is, despite Half-Baked, can you imagine how scary she'd be if they'd actually put the work in? But
oh, no, for real.
Aside from that, I really like we get some actual Batman and Robin in a Batman and Robin Adventures.
Oh, yeah. No, Batman and Robin was great. Robin was on point in this episode.
Very good. Yes.
The spunky thing, the cousin spunky thing, I had forgotten about that. Uh-huh. And I was like, what? So whenever he tossed the dynamite at the table, I was like, wow, this spunky guy is really spry.
I did the same thing. I had forgotten how this episode, I don't want to say ended because it ends differently, but how it shaped up. And what's more, that leads to another one of my favorite little Batman tropes, which is masks under other masks are amazing.
Yes.
That is a Batman staple. I love it. I don't even care when it makes no sense and it's a mask over the cowl. I'm still here for it, and it's amazing. So good stuff.
Was it the laughing fish? I think it was whenever Batman was disguised as a police officer. He took off the mask and he had his Batman cowl on.
So great. Yeah, so if I can get in here, you can get. Yeah. I also like that there's some actual detective work going on here, right? Like we're collecting clues and Robin is watching a sitcom for detectiving purposes.
Yes. And I love how he compares it to he says, oh, this is worse than the worst fight we had with Poison Ivy.
Yes, and I've watched some of those sitcoms I grew up with, and the boy is not wrong. The boy is on to something.
Guys, don't go back and watch old sitcoms. They're very cringy.
I really liked Mr. Happy Head.
Oh, yeah.
Like this doll with one missing eye is already creepy. And then you find out it's missing because it's a gun barrel. And I'm like, that's pure Gotham. I'm here for that.
Super Gotham. No, that's great. And also, wow, that would never fly today. Like, that's just, ooh, boy. Again, kids show?
Let me return in a moment to how I think Mary Doll could be amazing in 2019 and how we could actually make that really work. But I agree that it would be in a weird space for purely children's television, So the other thing that I really liked, and this may honestly be the last thing that I really liked, is when Miriam says to Batman, it's a living, about being,
yes,
a professional martial artist henchwoman. I was like, okay, I now want, we had Gotham Central was this amazing comic book series that was all about the cops of Gotham when they were just trying to be cops in Gotham without Batman hanging around. Like, it was not a Batman book. It was just in Gotham. And I'm like, let's do the flip of that and just have like the professional henchmen of Gotham living their lives and then being like, all right, I guess I got to go get my ass kicked by Batman because Mary Doll needs, somebody that looks like a professional nanny / secretary, but can also do kung fu.
Yes. That's fun. Yeah. No, there was what was it? I want to say it was 2009. It was right around the time the Dark Knight came out. There was the Joker story. I think Brian Azzarello. I can't say his name right, but there was one where the whole comic was following a crony who got in with the Joker and just all from his perspective. I like story. That's a fun. I like how you put it, Joshua. I think more stories like that would be fun, especially if it was like a recurring, regular issue series.
I know that Tom King did a similar thing or like a similar concept with Kite Man fairly recently that just kind of elevated Kite Man for a while. It's got a lot of potential. We'll put it that way. So I really liked all of that. And there ends the positive, because at that point we're moving into the final chase in the amusement park, which feels tacked on and lazy and stupid.
Okay, sorry. Something about I just have to throw this out there, Joshua. I have to say it. What is going on with the eyes of these kids in this amusement park? I'm sorry, this is such a small detail, but some of them have you can see their pupils. Some of them you can't. It's not consistent. And the ones that don't have pupils look really weird in comparison to that's a small detail, but I was like, why do those kids look so strange? Because some of them, and then of course Baby Doll, you can see it, and then our main characters, whenever they don't have the cowls on, they have normal eyes. So all of a sudden I was like, what is this, like an unfinished episode thing? I don't know. It was a very strange thing.
You know what? I lied to you about one thing, because the kids in the amusement park reminded me of one other positive that I really enjoyed.
Oh?
Batman trades on the fact that kids love him.
Ooh.
And I love that detail because he is, scourge to the underworld, like terrifying creature of the night. But he jumps down there and lets all these kids see him because he knows the kid that doesn't run to see Batman is Mary. And that is a fantastic metatextual point. I really like that. But it's in the middle of this worthless amusement park nonsense. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, it just tacked on is the right way. But I do like I did. That's a great point. The way Batman uses his celebrity and the fact that he knows kids like him.
Yeah, which we've seen before. He saves kids, but kids know that, right? Like, however they know it, they know it. Maybe it was Robin running around with him for 5 years as an actual kid. Who knows? But he Batman understands that and puts it to use, and that makes my heart aflutter. I just really like that moment, that metatextual moment.
Yes, I thought that was a nice touch. Do we want to go ahead and delve into this ending, though? Because
it's terrible and stupid, and I hate every bit of it.
Bad. Well, here's the thing. Here's what's the most frustrating part is I feel like there's an entire either act or epilogue missing, because I thought the Hall of Mirrors is a really great, I think is a really interesting choice. I should say, not necessarily great, but interesting choice to give us a peek into her psychology. And unfortunately, they don't fully get there, so it's still not super clear exactly what this is doing to her or what her motivations are really. It's like, does she want to look like a normal person? Like, how does she think herself?
Yeah, in the end, what is she actually upset about?
Yes, correct. And then it just ends, and I felt like there were, you know what I mean? Like, I knew the episode was ending because of how long the camera stayed on the Batman hugging Baby Doll, but I also was. It just felt like there should have been more. Like it felt like there should have been a scene or two or something to clarify exactly what was going on in her head. I don't know exactly what the best way to have done that would be, but just felt lacking. And it felt like it stopped right in the middle of the action.
I might come back a little differently and say there should be a little bit less in a way.
Okay.
Because Mary hugging Batman and getting comforted and then saying her little catchphrase, except in a real morose tone, is just a series of terrible storytelling choices for this episode. She is not put upon. Now, okay, let me take a step back. Her body is not physically developing the way that it ought to. So I don't want to downplay the fact that she is a disabled person, okay? That actually ties into the way I think Mary Dahl could be excellent in 2019 that I'll chat with you about here in a second. So I don't want to downplay that that's a thing. But this episode isn't about that. Maybe it should have been, right? We'll talk about it. But it's not about that. It's about her anger at the way her life went and these people she's blaming when it was her choice. And at the end, I don't want her comforted. They change what the episode is about in the Funhouse, and it does not work, and actually kind of sends exactly the wrong message, in my opinion.
I think, well, I'm not sure really, okay, yes, but, okay, let me put it this way. I don't think the message it sends is clear, which leaves it very open to interpretation,
even worse,
which means you could extrapolate really bad messages from it. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, so that ambiguity at the ending kind of is what got me thinking about the way that Mary Dahl could make a comeback in 2019 in a way that a lot of this episode could maybe be salvaged, right? I mean, or maybe not this episode, but a retelling of this episode could be really interesting. So if we framed all of Mary's choices as an adult actress around ableism, right? Like the fact that she is only ever allowed to play this type of character because of her disability.
Right.
We just framed the entire thing about that. So the thing that she is angry about is the fact that not even necessarily is she angry with her disability, right? Because I think that would also send the wrong message at this point. But she's angry at the way Hollywood and her co-stars and then, you know, the more dramatic world at large treated her because of her disability.
Yeah.
We center that and we make her co-stars a little bit jerks, right? Like maybe they weren't, maybe they were condescending. They didn't dislike her and they weren't like overtly ableist, but they were condescending and took her for granted on this gravy train.
Well, it's really easy to come up with a scenario where you make either the cast kind of jerks and you make Hollywood the bad guy or the executive producers in Hollywood the bad guy. Like, man, your show just stopped performing. You know, we don't think that, we think, viewers think it's strange that we have this, short, small person on the screen and kind of disturbing. So we're just going to go ahead and cancel the show. You know what I mean? Like, come up with a really like Hollywood businessy way to like ruin the show versus her leaving the show to try a different career. I don't know.
Yeah. And so then, no, I think that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, there's a lot of ways this could go, but right. We blame sort of, society at large and larger societal ableism by centering it on business choices, about the show. And she's left with essentially no career. So she does her best to start, a dramatic career because she's got real chops. But then everybody just laughs at her because of her disability. Now we get her, right? And she's not angry about her disability. She's angry about the way other people react to it. And then I'm not saying the ending is perfect then, but it makes a lot more sense. It works better. And we really understand what's going on with Mary Dahl. And we get to say something about society's just overarching ableism.
Yes.
She could be really good at that point.
Yes. Wholeheartedly agree.
I don't think 1996 was ready for a serious look at ableism, even if it should have been. But now we are, right? Now we are.
Yep.
And as half-baked as it was 26 years ago, we're in a place for this now. I would really like to see a better telling. I'd like to see Paul Dini of now take a stab at Mary Dahl and see what we can get done.
Yeah, no, wholeheartedly agree. I think, I think this story was in some way, the idea might have been, like you said, a little ahead of its time, because I don't think society was ready to talk, really even consider that in 1996.
Thank you very much. That's a better way to say it than not ready, because they should, by God, get ready. But you're right. They weren't willing to consider it. That is much better. Thank you.
Right. But I think that's a great pitch, Joshua. So maybe 2019, it's a good time to bring back Baby Doll and say something a little more meaningful about society, because I think that those opportunities are definitely there. Well, Joshua, as always, you want to go ahead and close out the show with our alternate media recommendations. So for our listeners who want to have some sort of pairing with this not great episode, what would you recommend?
Okay, because I wasn't really sure what this episode was supposed to be about, I went with a really sort of oblique take of revenge on your coworkers.
Ooh, that's good.
Okay? And so, with that in mind, I am going to, with some trepidation, I admit, but nevertheless, I am going to recommend Kill Bill Volume 1.
Oh, wow. Oof. That's great.
Not Kill Bill as a whole, not Kill Bill Volume 2, just the first one, and even then, I still have trepidation, but nevertheless, a fantastic woman takes revenge on her coworker story. Yep. That is, beautifully shot and has amazing fight scenes. And you may not love what it's about, but by God, it knows what it's about, which is more than we can say for, Baby doll.
I think it's a really strong recommendation. I mean, women taking control, and taking out on their coworkers. Okay, yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. Any others? Just that one.
Nope, that's all I got. So tell me about yours.
So I am leaning into the the reflection on celebrity culture. So I've got 3.
Oh, yeah.
First and foremost, this is one that's a little more about, really it's more about sitcoms than it is about celebrity, to be honest, but it's one from 2017 that I found that not enough people saw. It's a little film called Brigsby Bear, and it stars this, it features this guy who is like literally raised up on this TV show called Brigsby Bear that's kind of a weird show, kind of like the Teletubbies maybe, but it has like more of a mythology. It just feels, you feel like you saw it on TV in the 80s, even though you didn't.
Yeah.
It also has Mark Hamill, who plays his dad, which is really fun. And there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. But I will say the show really goes and delves into the nature of why do we tune into sitcoms? Why do we hold up these characters in sitcoms as like icons and very relatable? And ultimately is a really great celebration of storytelling and communities telling stories. So that's great. That's the feel-good one. The second one is The Truman Show, which is what it's like to live, what kind of giving you an insight, what is it like to live in a world where everyone's watching 24/7? So celebrities, even when they're not on TV or in the movies, people are watching them. They got paparazzis, they got, internet streamers, stalkers, they've got everything. So this is I think Truman Show is a really great way to get in the head of, I'm always being watched. Now, even though Truman himself does not consider himself a celebrity, the whole show is built around his life. So
yeah, that's a good pull. I thought of that one also, and liked what it was saying and what this episode itself could have said. Right.
Yes.
But yeah, I just decided to go more sensationalistic. So thanks for being the grown up on this show, Caleb.
No. Well, here's the thing. I think all 3 of these movies do what this episode could have done much better. The last one is, this one's going to be a little heavier, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw the warning on there. Watch this movie, but know there might be sexual assault involved, so just keep that in mind. It's very heavy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's my trepidation for Kill Bill Volume 1, too.
Yeah, well, my last recommendation is Perfect Blue, an anime from the director Satoshi Kon.
Yes.
Incredible film. And if you want to see kind of this, what it's like to be a celebrity who is having a psychological breakdown at the loss of identity. Like, who's the real me? Am I the real me? Is the actor the real me? Is the character I'm playing the real me? What's going on? You know what I mean? If you want to look at that kind of the psychological angle, and also how other people in the culture react to celebrity, it's a phenomenal film. But also know that, again, warning, there is sexual assault is a part of the plot, and I'm generally pretty wary about super recommending stuff with that in it.
Yeah.
But I think with this film, it's not perfect, it's not great, but I think the benefits greatly outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, there's some conversation to be had around it. That's what we're saying here at the very least.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
About wraps up this animated discussion. Caleb, where can people go to continue the conversation with you?
Well, Joshua, you can always find me on Twitter talking about film, television, video games, and all sorts of other pop culture goodness at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. I'm also the editor-in-chief and film critic at the Cinematropolis. and we publish these in-depth essays on all types of different films, oftentimes including science fiction and superhero films, all the stuff you'd want to read about. And you can find all these articles at thecinematropolis.com. Joshua, what about you?
I'm also most active on Twitter, where you can find me easily enough at Joshua Unruh. And remember that an animated discussion is a Pulp Diction Productions program and is 100% supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can keep this and our other shows in production, check out patreon.com/pulpdictionproductions.
In our next animated discussion, we'll be taking a look at Season 2, Episode 12, The Lion and the Unicorn.
Until next time, we'll see you back here. Same bat time, same bat channel.